GM, what's going on, guys? Welcome back. I'm SMS, and this is Jules. What's going on, brother? How's your weekend?
Good. What's happening, man?
Oh, man, just getting into it, trying to keep up with these markets and see what's going on, man, up and down. But I think we were ready for most of that. But I think there's a little bit more exciting things to talk about today with RWAs and a little bit more attention on that side of things. But we'll dive into it, guys. This is Solana Made Simple, powered by the Zeus Network. Shout out to them. And this is episode 5. Like I said, we're going to be talking about RWAs on Solana, talking about the interest in institutional investing and why this matters for a broader scope, not just, directly here into, this crypto-centric world that we live in. But if you want to start and take it away with the first preview there, or the first clip, Gravy, you can go ahead.
There's dirt on my hands. Strong like a tree. There's roots where I stand. Oh, I've been running from the
cruises?
Hope they won't shoot me down
Yeah,
soon.
like what you're talking about. Like I didn't really. I didn't fantasize.
There's dirt.
I forgot that there was a voiceover on that one when I did a phone grab on him. But there was an announcement with 1inch over there. They were bridging or making it possible for people to bridge over to Solana, opening up more opportunities for people to get their liquidity and get the opportunities that are available here. But today, we're going to be talking about the RWAs on Solana, breaking down why the rise of real world assets on Solana matters, how it's evolving, the institutions that are leading the charge, and why this matters for the future of global finance. In my opinion, I think Solana kind of takes the cake on first mover for the future of finance. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, again, without totally diving into it yet, obviously there's a large surge in RWA or real world assets in multiple chains, but obviously Solana's, taking that next step here more recently to, again, connect TradFi to us, basically.
For sure. Solana's definitely moving fast, and we're going to keep it simple today and break it down so you guys can really understand what this means, what you can do to get involved, those kind of things, and where to keep your sites. But when we start our shows off, we always have Jules start with some new topic insights, updates, and key narratives going across the Solana ecosystem and crypto in general. If you want to take it away and kind of get us up to date and what we got cooking.
Yeah, as always, they're bigger picture news bits that we go through every week. To start that off, over the last week, we did see a bit of news coming from, excuse me, Chamath. I don't even know if I ever say his name right, and I'm definitely not going to try his last name. Chamath, whatever it is. He's got a filing for a SPAC, assuming most people know what a SPAC is by now, or at least when they were hot. Essentially, it's got a multitude of 4 different things, I guess: energy production, defense, things like that, AI. Obvious things, but one of the 4 is actually decentralized finance. So again, to kind of go with the theme of TradFi, I mean, everybody's kind of starting to look at decentralized finance, so that's why our DeFi numbers continue to be hot. Going along with that theme a little bit, again, institutional wise, Dutch firm Amdex is to launch a Bitcoin wealth company, AMBTS, targeting 1% of Bitcoin long term. So obviously more bullish news there. I think we'll continue to see, obviously the various different institutions targeting to hold or obtain X amount of BTC. Another interesting one was the Bit Mining attempting to rebrand a little bit into kind of a different name to reflect its strategic shift towards the Solana ecosystem. So BitMining's chairman and chief operating officer, Bo Yu, said becoming Solai, which is the name they're attempting to rebrand to, SOLAI, marks the next chapter in our journey to providing the best value for our shareholders. We will establish a global financial infrastructure powered by AI, driven by transparency, and optimized for capital efficiency. Beginning with the Solana ecosystem, our strategic foundation will seamlessly expand to other blockchain platforms, bridging innovation with real-world financial ecosystems. So again, just another good example of not only the institutional pull coming towards spot exposure to Bitcoin, but obviously we have plenty of people going towards the Solana ecosystem now as well, as we just talked about last week. Lastly, on that bit, kind of going with what I just said, and I'm going to probably dive into this one a little further next week when I get a little more details on it. But supposedly Galaxy, Jump, and Multicoin are said to seek $1 billion to buy Solana token. So, again, to go with the story from last week, it's just showing there's getting to be, whether it's going to be Treasury, whether they're going to begin to DeFi, whatever. Definitely showing the, we started with the institutional interest into Bitcoin, ETH, things like that. That's progressing down through the Solana ecosystem as we speak.
Yeah, there's a lot going on, a lot of different moving parts. But I mean, you're seeing the TradFi, traditional finance, that coming into this full bore, and I mean, it's hard to negate that. And I don't know if it's even a matter of what chain is best or what's working. It's just where is it being used, where is it being utilized. And these rails, another part about them, it brings crypto to the people that don't really want to get to the technical part of wallets and going down that route. Like, it gives them that exposure, and it does help, and it does support the ecosystem when it comes into that. So I don't know, it's for me, it makes you kind of look at it on another scale of like why DeFi, why decentralized finance is important in general, and how that does bridge over to the traditional finance like side of the world.
Well, and I'd also point out for anyone who didn't listen last week, some of this has to do with risk curve as well. And I'm not saying that's why they're picking Solana is to strictly to gain more risk, but what they're doing is we've started with this. Here's the safest, here's our start, and it's always going to be something safe. We're going to start accumulating Bitcoin and spot exposure and things like that. To go further down the risk curve, not that it's risky, but it's just further down the risk curve versus spot exposure. So we're starting to now see, how do we get into DeFi? Because at least at the time, originally, institutions are thinking, okay, well, we can get into BTC exposure, spot exposure and ETH, but what can we do beyond that? And Solana's more ready-made for this already.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think the cost efficiency in general, most people will agree to that. They don't want to spend an arm and a leg just to perform a transaction when there's an option available. So there's
that too. Yeah,
like very clear to me. I mean, that's why most of us went from Ethereum, to a Solana to operate, to build, and all of that, just because of that reason. Not to mention the transactions per second and all of those kind of rails that come into play. Did you see that one post that was made about how many transactions Solana hit? Like, they topped out at for the TPS
over 100K.
Yeah,
that's like a 5x. I brought it up last week, or if it might have happened right after the last show.
It was right around the same time, because I remember thinking about it when we were getting ready to this, and I was like, that's a huge part. Like, that's huge, because Visa does 24,000 per second. That's a 5x on like what is already acceptable of those kind of transactions. And I mean, that, I don't know. I think that speaks to the bigger companies and the bigger, when it comes to RWAs, we can, dive into that. But bottom line, you're looking at money being moved around, and what is the easiest way, most comfortable way for people to use money? It's to use those cards and make those transactions. You need to have something that can support it. Now you're looking at something that's going to, grow it and expand upon that. I mean, I don't know how fast you truly need it, but like, you are splitting hairs at a certain point, I guess, when it comes down to it. But size and cost efficiency, I think, comes into play. But if you want to jump, go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say, I to echo what you're saying is, I don't think it necessarily is like in a vacuum saying, okay, what is faster? It's saying what can handle it and is more scalable. Has the users so. Point is, you already are starting to get a proven track record. You hit over 100K TPS. The point would be is saying, okay, but what about now in 5 years? And when we start to actually bring an entire financial ecosystem this direction.
Yeah, okay. I see what you're saying.
Is scalable and what can handle it. And that's the proving point here with Solana, where, ETH is, it's going to be faster than the old traditional finance system, but how is it going to handle bringing all that to it? And right now, Solana is looking.
Well, ETH is going to have to depend on the L2s, and you run into issues with that, because like ETH alone does, I think, 30 TPS, which is crazy.
And I could tell you, we're going to dive into this a little bit more, but some of these institutions, or most, I should say, aren't going to be interested in looking at side chains and things like that.
They want the predominant, the leaders in the dog. Exactly. So yeah, let's kind of jump into it right now. We talked a little bit about let's just talk about what RWAs, for people that are kind of new to it. Real world assets, what they are is treasuries, bonds, private credits, commodities, funds, stocks, tokenized and on chain. Again, I was kind of explaining. It's going to be easier for me to sit at the Thanksgiving dinner table and explain. Whoa, sorry, that's fun. But to explain to somebody how they can buy a stock or something like that, where it's an ETF and they can invest into it, one of the traditional rails of finance, rather than, all right, go get your wallet. And it's just an easier concept for them to understand how to get into it. Once they see that this is something that they can download, that it is simple, basically like sending an email, you're pressing buttons. I know there's security, I know that there's other things, but most people are playing on their phone. They could do this. It's just a matter of holding their hand. Once they see that those things are kind of connected, and this is 24/7. They don't have to wait for the traditional rails. Like when you have Webull, when you have what's it called, Robinhood, there's certain fees and stuff like that that you tend to have to pay. Once you go past that to a brokerage, like it just gets to another level of people kind of step away from it. This completely removes all those walls. That you're able to do this at any time, and I don't know. I think that that's important for Solana and DeFi as far as bridging the traditional finance to what we call it as DeFi, providing more yield for people. It opens that floodgate. What do you think about that take on there? Like, do you think it's going to be easier for people to get involved with that, or do you think that
I would say that was a pretty good take on that. Is I would look at it as just to kind of compare to something. I would say kind of similar to like, okay, we started in crypto being difficult to get into and things like that. So obviously there was ideas out there like Robinhood. Okay, let's make it easier to bring in everyone else. Same thing. We're just going down the line here now, and we're saying, okay, if we're going to be tokenizing real world assets for various reasons, the other benefit is this is how you get people involved instead of, like you said, like you're saying, brokerages, things like that, where it's difficult for the average person to understand or know what to do, things like that. So it's basically like saying, my point is like, just like Robinhood is attempting to bring people into crypto, this is the same type of thing where it's saying, okay, we're going to now start to make all asset classes available to all classes. That's the way I would look at it.
Yeah, brings a lot of liquidity, and it brings another leg of this whole thing that we're getting into, and I'm excited for it because I mean, you can go to your wallet, you can start. I mean, to me, it kind of does remind me a little bit like Robinhood. I know that is the appeal, is like you want to make it that simple and easy for people. But we're seeing Solana taking the lead. We're seeing that Solana is the #1 chain for transactions, like we were talking about. Per volume, it's at 40 million. The institutions like BlackRock are buying up. I guess not just BlackRock, like Circle as well. Like they're getting involved. They're spending their money, like not just into stable coins. They're buying different assets. They're buying Bitcoin. They're stacking up on Solana. Like we're prepping for these ETFs, and we're prepping for all of these things to like happen kind of like all at the same time. And I mean, I look for other chains to see how much attention that they are putting on there, and it just doesn't seem like it's going to make sense for them. I mean, I don't know.
I would say
it's hard to see.
So, I mean, obviously there's going to be some attention put on them, but some of these other chains also have various focuses, and sometimes some of these chains also have more crypto-centric focus, where and this kind of what we're talking about is like the difference here is it's like saying, okay, yes, Solana does have a crypto-centric focus and things like that, but they're also trying to take all these steps to say, this chain is the scalable and quick one that can bring TradFi and connect it to DeFi. So like, that I think that's the main point there.
So you think that's why Solana's winning when it comes to that race?
Yeah, I would just say that they obviously put a focus on it. I would just say that some chains maybe are just a little, I mean, they're going to be a little bit smaller. Assuming we're not talking L2s of ETH or something like that, but like, any of the other chains, they're a little more crypto centric focused. Like they're still trying to build like a community. Solana was already ready made, like has all the users, has everything else. And while that was happening, because if you think about it, if you go back, while they built like, we'll call it a meme coin playground is what, most people would have thought of it at one point. While that was happening in the background, they were preparing for TradFi. Like they've been doing this for at least the last couple of years. So like the entire point was that some of these other chains just really were more like, okay, how do we just get even? I mean, they're behind on the fact where we still need volume, we need users, we need, this and this. So they have to, if we're just talking about something like Avalanche or, something like that,
Right. They're not going to be able to kind of keep up when it comes to that side of things. But I don't know. It's something I look at. I was looking around at some DeFi companies. There was this thing called Solutionify where they were putting together like baskets and like indexes and stuff like that. That's something that's interesting to see kind of coming up and, blocking these together. That I mean, again, that shows that there's people thinking forward and trying to build. We're seeing DeFi Dev Corp. They're making some news. and headlines as far as like just buying Solana and having their stock traded, on RWAs and on traditional finance as well. So you're seeing that. How many more companies have you heard of, or platforms that are really utilizing both ends of that? Anything else that comes to mind?
Let me see here. Well, I mean, what types? You mean like that are
utilizing like the RWA asset or idea of tokenizing their asset, and then they also are traded on the regular exchange, like
oh yeah,
DeFi
okay. Well, I mean, obviously
they're like double dipping on this one, and I don't know. I think that's a pretty cool appeal, because you have the crypto people that might be like, that's cool. I want to grab one of these shares. I just want to have part of it. And then you have the other side where they're like, hey, I got exposure over here. This is a crypto company. Like maybe this is the onboarding process for me or something. I don't know. Do you think that anybody or many people are going to be looking at it on that end?
Well, yes, because I mean, clearly I would say on the crypto side, I would definitely say yes. And then on the other side of it, I mean, it's already being used in we'd say version 1 of TradFi, we'll call it. So yeah, I mean, everybody wants to tokenize assets, so I would say it's an easy comparison to say, of course, that the two will combine together, because from the TradFi standpoint, it's clunky, it's old, it's this and this, so that's why everybody wants to tokenize assets.
Sure. What are some of the platforms or whatever that you would suggest are leading ones as far as
like I mean, Ondo, everybody would know, Maple, VNX, kind of leading the charge in any of those tokenizing assets. I would Ondo would stand out to me the most. I mean, I think everybody in crypto knows what Ondo is,
right?
But there's definitely some more we'll say things coming. Like R3 obviously is on the way. They have that's basically kind of like bringing. That's probably the best example of bringing two together, because they actually have Corda, where it's used by HSBC, SDX, Euroclear. They do a lot of money in tokenized assets. But basically, It's like bringing. How would I say? It's kind of like bringing two together almost, because like. I'm trying to think of the best way to explain it, because R3 is like basically its own like private thing, and then Solana is a public blockchain. So they can actually kind of work on both sides of that, if that makes sense.
Yeah, 100%. I think there was a recent announcement regarding R3, wasn't there?
Yes, sir.
You want to dive into that?
Solana.
I'm pulling up there.
Bringing it up there. Partner with Solana leading institutions into a new era of internet capital markets. Essentially, and that's kind of where I was going with that, is R3 is like already in this field. And so they've been taking the time to decide, okay, if we're going to really start to look towards bringing this, instead of just having Corda, for example, how are we going to what else can we use that actually like is more of a public blockchain? So we're going to look at ETH, we're going to look at Solana, we're going to look at, whatever other L1s. So, and that's kind of where they ended up picking Solana after spending quite a bit of time on that. There's a variety of different reasons that they had, and when it came to choosing Solana, I mean, fragmentation, philosophical alignment, and ecosystem vibrancy is what they said they were mostly looking at. Right. So kind of comes back again, if you think about the three things I just said there, which public blockchain has the user base, but yet also isn't fragmented, and it's going to be able to handle the scale of starting to bring billions upon billions of dollars of on-chain assets.
Yeah, I don't think there's many that you can put into that category. I think that's why Solana is different. Let's shout out to that tweet yesterday.
Yeah.
That was kind of fun. But either way, guys, if you're not following their account, it's insider_R3. They got some great info on there, but there was a post I want to just highlight, kind of talking about what we're aiming at. It's demand from both sides that is rising. DeFi wants high quality tokenized asset, and institutions want access to public chain liquidity. Together, R3 and Solana are delivering an infrastructure to bridge that gap. This is how we scale real world assets, RWAs, distribution, open up the markets, and unlock growth while all preserving the privacy and controls institutions require. I mean, for me, being with Marinade Finance, starting to look at the institutional interest, the utilization, adoption, however you want to phrase it. Bottom line, they're looking at safe places to, store their funds and invest. They know that there's upside. They know that Solana, I think is undervalued, tremendously at this price point right now. And I think it's lagging behind, obviously Bitcoin. I think there's a gap that we're going to see push up. We cover the charts, we watch it, we can kind of see the sentiment like you're talking about as far as the community, the vibrancy, what's being talked about. You're having people that don't have, much experience with traditional finance learning about it through crypto because of these things. Because it's like the crypto savvy person, in my opinion, is trying to look ahead. I guess the investor, bottom line, is looking ahead and having that rail of bringing this over here and combining these sides, bridging these things together. There's a pickup, because most people that got into like NFTs back in the day that are here now, they didn't even know what a chart was or how to look at it. Now here they are, trading meme coins and following charts, doing TA left and right. This does scale out the opportunity for people to get invested. I mean, it brings a conversation where regular people that are that are traders are going to be like, I had no idea you could do this 24/7 through your wallet. It's like, yeah, like this is making that possible. Me being a traditional background in stocks, like you had 4 a.m. to 9 a.m. That was your pre-market. You could trade within that window, and then you just sit there and watch the dark pools do what dark pools do and hope for the best in the morning. Like that's literally, what the conversation kind of stemmed around. Sure, there's earning reports and stuff like that, but you had no access to it at that point. And plus there was other reasons. Now it's here. Now that gap is something that's exciting for me, for other people, in a whole. And I think that R3 is going to bring, a huge wave of users that, we're probably not even paying attention to, because I think that this grows. I think that people start to see more opportunity. And it's like, we were building at some of the lowest points in Solana. Now we're bringing billions of dollars in people and energies and ideas into this. It's a matter of time before this is a powder keg and it goes a little bit bigger. Well, a lot bigger.
I'd also say that to kind of shift it just a little bit here, that while a lot of people in, obviously in CT or anybody in crypto, kind of focuses on the trenches in Solana and, how that's going and things like that. Obviously there's always a lot of complaints about X amount of launches, X amount of rugs, things like that. But the point is, I think people should be actually, instead of always I feel like sometimes people get a little too wrapped up in that and think, oh God, this is so bad. The trenches are this, you got the meme coin, constant this and this and this. That's actually a good thing. And clearly institutions saw that for the sake, again, of scalability, high throughput usage. So they're not looking at it and saying, oh yeah, we want to come here because of the trenches. I mean, they're not saying that, but they're saying it handles the users. It handles all these different things that are constantly going on, whether people think they're good or bad. Just like the meme coin frenzy of, a year ago, that was basically saying, and then now to your point earlier, hitting over 100K TPS. The point is it creates a hyper efficient environment. Mm-hmm. Again, do some of us that are here every day in crypto and in CT, they get wrapped up in just the trenches are this and this and this. All you're doing is essentially testing the network to a high level, and you're making sure it's ready and scalable to handle more throughput. So this is a big thing when it comes to, I firmly believe that companies like R3 are looking at that and seeing the other way around from CT is my point, where they're saying, no, this is actually a good thing. You know what I mean?
100%, man. I think that seeing the stress test on the networks with anything, whether it's a mint, whether it's the craze, we've seen it in stages, progressively build up, and it's still, I still think we have Fire Dancer that hasn't been fully implemented into, Solana. And once that happens, I mean, you have more stability and structure for the network side of things. I think Solana is just being built on such a fundamental basis, but it's covering every single base on its way up. You know what I mean? The adoption, the amount of people that are just using the chain in general. It's just staggeringly different than other chains, and that's obviously why would you want to go, people where people aren't. So I mean, it's very clear to me, numbers don't lie, it's accelerating. That's why they use the words accelerator or accelerate during their event there, and we saw institutional investors in there. I don't know, it's just exciting to see that happen, man. And
I
want
would
to
also say one thing we never mentioned is being a U.S. company. That helps in regulation also.
True. I mean, the administration in general, I've kind of said this a few different times, like they want this. They know that there's money that comes with it. And unfortunately, like a lot of this is all about money. A lot of the bigger scale things, the bigger picture, the reason that BlackRock and those kind of entities are getting involved with this is like they see the opportunity to capitalize on that. And the only people that don't like that situation are the people that aren't making money. Let's be honest. That's why we're all here. The only people that say that that's bad for anybody is the people that aren't getting a piece of the pie. This is a situation where you can position yourself. I would say you're extremely early to the RWA side of things. I think that you get to help, partake into the, that side of things. But I don't know. Anybody that's just, anytime you've seen people kind of put up a block and say resist against what's clearly happening in real time, they usually say, I wish I would have gotten sooner. So if you guys aren't paying attention to RWAs, if you're not paying attention to the companies that are bridging the gap between traditional finance and DeFi, these are the leaders of the next step or the next stage, in my opinion. And it's something that should be studied, I guess, in that end.
Yeah. And I'd also say, since we didn't totally touch on really kind of what R3 brings to the table, because this is a big deal, so I don't want to kind of just gloss over. I want to make sure everybody understands R3 and Solana partnering together is a large deal, because with 17 billion in regulated assets already on chain, R3 provides expertise and oversight, safeguard institutions. The need, all of that kind of goes through their products and guidance, while Solana brings the speed and the scale. So again, to my point that they actually have like their own private chain, the point would be that you're essentially connecting Corda and Solana, because with regulations and all this, you have to, so there's certain things that some of these institutions want to do kind of on the private side, but then you still have the part of the transaction still showing on the public side. So that's kind of why they would go that route. But anyway, long story short is what that does for Solana, being obviously they are not, while they are number one currently in like what you said earlier, the transaction volume per holder, they're not number one overall in the RWA aspect just yet. But that's why bringing R3 partnering with them it's really huge. You're talking, I think they were going to be bringing over 10 billion or something like that. I don't have the number in front of me now, but they're something like 10 to 15 billion dollars was the expectation.
It's insane.
Yeah. So yeah, again, point being is obviously this is not this is not just like a small move. This is just kind of the beginning, but
it's like a major shift, honestly. Like this isn't, it's not something that's going to be undermined at all. I mean, I'm just kind of looking at this a little bit closer. Like this, the future of capital markets. Like it's as funny as that sounds, it's for real. Like it's here.
And I think I think Gravy may have. I don't know if Gravy's the one that pulled it up there. I'm guessing he did. That in a recent 30-day period, I think he was showing the unique wallets. Maybe. Yep, right there. So
yeah, I was looking at that.
Recently, that's basically the unique wallets holding tokenized stocks on Solana. So we're just talking tokenized stocks. First of all, that's not even the full RWA spectrum.
Right.
But that already jumped from like, was it 7,400 to like over 58,000 or something like that. So it's definitely going to be a rapid adoption. Again, due to the, basically the forefront of Solana being high throughput, near zero transaction costs, things like that. So yeah, it's definitely.
I mean, you open up your wallet, you can literally swap from a meme coin to a stock.
Yeah,
that's insane.
And nowadays, this is really early yet, but now we can even do pre-stocks.
Well, yeah. I mean, I talked to those guys in one of those Kaizen spaces. Want to get maybe we should try and get them on here. One of those guys. That'd be interesting.
I need to learn a little bit. Well, I mean, I need to dive into them a little bit more. I know we brought it up another time that I kind of have some interest in that, just because I always look at the risk curve, and I like kind of going down the risk curve every once in a while to see like, okay, it's just natural that we keep doing these different steps. So obviously I was like, okay, what about let's get basically our own versions of IPOs going here, Well,
I saw Discord on there, and that's what made me like look at it, because I was like, just the fact that I see the name I recognize, like I know that other people are going to feel the same way. We've been in this space for how long using Discord? Now it's going to go public.
I don't know. I always think to myself that, so you're essentially like, okay, because normally in an IPO, you're like, all right, let's say you get in, and you're like, oh, now we get dumped on by, basically, you're basically always getting dumped on by the bigger guys. So like, I know the theory would be that, okay, now we can get in earlier and be with the bigger guys and then dump on them for a 3x, 4x.
Oh, they still have a plan.
That's what I was going to say, is I wonder still how this, because it always goes wrong for most of retail. Sorry to say, but I'm wondering how that's going to go wrong yet, because it was like all the big names on the pre-stocks. But still a very,
I mean, there's two different things I look at, because when you saw Coinbase IPO, this was a while ago, but they did the same thing. They kind of had a little bit of a rough start, and then they took off. And the same thing with Circle, same thing with all of these crypto-centric companies that came out. And I know that was early on, but like they still had that pressure that came in. And to our point is, like, there's a plan already. Like, these people are not stupid. They're literally starting companies with billions of dollars being floated around. Like, they know how to maneuver this, and it's not their first walk in the park. And I mean, we're talking about it being this simple. There's somebody behind those doors that knows how simple it is to press these buttons and buy and sell, and like, you know what I mean? That's part of it, and you are going to have that. That's why I think some people do push back and say, we don't want centralization, we don't want, bigger guys into the picture. It's like, well, you have to double-edged sword here. Do you want this to grow, or do you want this to stay exactly where it is and be kind of ridiculed and pushed to the back corner and say, no, this is all a scam? You know what I mean? Like, you have to have a little bit of understanding. I don't want to say acceptance, but understanding, and to let this thing kind of flourish, in my opinion.
Yeah, it's a funny topic, because it reminds me of something I saw someone say the other day when they said they don't even recognize any of this anymore. And I'm like, and they're saying it basically in a more negative fashion, but I'm thinking to myself, like, okay, so let's just, in speaking in terms of Bitcoin, let's just say, like, I get that. I think many had the original idea of that this is the people's currency or people's money, whatever you want to call it. It's for the people. Yeah. But I'm like, well, how far is that really going to take us? Like, I understand we're trying to be different from TradFi. And so that's why some people are like, oh, here comes TradFi coming along now to the party and things like that. But yeah. And somebody just Gravy just commented, I see, mass adoption isn't possible without the suits. What I'm saying is basically that, like, how are you going to adopt without that? And many people would say, well, we didn't want to, but I don't know where you're going without everyday use and adoption. I just never understood where, unless we're talking some very small like thing where it's like, oh, here, I just don't see how you were going to get anywhere with it. Like,
yeah, you weren't. I mean, you weren't. It's one of those things that you're going to be in a club of people that all like use the same, thing. They like currency, obviously, like that. That's, I know it sounds pretty barbaric, but like, you would have been in the same little clubhouse and you would have been like, here's your club money. You know what I mean? Like, it would have to be like that. Then everybody still is outsourcing and trying to find ways to go to fiat so they can buy everyday things. Like, there's a couple different ways to kind of spin this and talk about it. Like, how do people think that Bitcoin was ever going to get utilized without it coming over to Solana and having Zeus be able to make that possible? Like, 15 plus minutes for a burger, not realistic. Never gonna happen. And speaking on that, since we are kind of headed towards the top of the hour, could you play the BTC Soul clip for us, Gravy, and then we'll jump into the rest of this conversation.
Well, real quick before you do play, Gravy, if you're anyone watching, keep in mind WebEx. At WebEx currently.
Oh, they're live at WebEx right now?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I guess I don't know what time it is there, but
Those guys are probably sleeping right now.
yeah, they're probably asleep now, but
or the after party.
Yeah, exactly. But anyway, just a reminder, if you're there in Asia, hopefully you're already at WebEx, but come see my boy D's at his booth. I believe he should have one there with BT Soul, if I recall. BTC Soul, and he's got the plushies and all that. So anyway, go ahead with the video.
Yeah, I need one of those plushies.
Now quickly, looking at the lob, Zions there. Plays it ahead of board. Now quickly, looking at the lob,
All right, shout out to D's. He's the homie over there with BTC Soul and the gang. They had a line around the block, it looked like, trying to get people in there, at least get some of those plushies or something like that. I saw some clips and videos, but they're having a good time. IRL is the alpha. If you guys get an opportunity to ever get out and connect with people, I would highly suggest taking the opportunity to, just see what's out there. But I do want to talk a little bit about your thoughts of the BTC Fi angle and how that does kind of tie into the institutional side of things. Because now you're bringing Bitcoin to life. Now you're bringing liquidity that Bitcoin holds, for all these years idly, to use. Do you think you're going to see much of a push of that, that liquidity being played around and moved around to the DeFi side of things? Do you think it's going to have any DeFi and RWA opportunities backed by Bitcoin liquidity, being that it is possible, on Solana now?
Well, I would say that, again, I would talk about risk curve when it comes to timing. So, like, first, we're just talking all spot exposure. We've started talking about ETFs that actually do involve DeFi, which then is Solana. I think we have to get all that going first. Like, basically, you have to keep going down the risk curve before we're going to see that. Mm-hmm. So that's what I think would probably be next. I mean, RWAs obviously are already a thing, so that's that's just going to keep growing. But if we start to see, like we already know with ETF applications and things like that for Solana, we're seeing them targeting DeFi. Okay, so what are the next steps institutionally, going beyond the spot exposure and things like that? So that's kind of my point. If they're already starting to open up to Solana and then looking to gain more yield, through DeFi, now at some point you've got to start looking at it for BTC also.
Right. So, like, imagine this. Let's say a treasury swaps a portion of their BTC to ZBTC. We saw 2 Bitcoin was added to Solana, in the last 24 hours. So let's just say that. Now it can be staked. You could use it for liquidity pools. You could access Solana native RWA yields with that. Like, I believe that would be the progression, or where people are starting to look at that. I mean, I feel like those kind of investors want to play the risk curve, like you're saying. They want to stay a little bit lower on that, and I don't know. I think that the staking, obviously, like that's one of the options, right?
Yeah, I mean, let's at least at this stage of the game. I don't mean to sound like a downer, but like, I don't think it's realistic that all of a sudden you're going to have some large institution. Well, they'd have to have somebody doing this for them, but a large institution like working on like liquidity pools. Like, I don't think that's overly realistic, at least yet. Mm-hmm. However, again, if we're going down the risk curve, if we're already seeing applications for ETFs for Solana because you can stake, yes, staking 100%, they will be going that route. Mm-hmm. That's kind of where I was like LPs and things like this. This is good ways for
like the retail.
Yes.
Yeah,
that's good ways for them to earn yield. I don't know. I'm not doubting that at some point you could have institutional look at that. I think it'd probably be in a
What do you
little
think-
different form.
What do you think about lending and borrowing as far as like borrowing
Well, they
against?
could do that. They definitely could do that. That's what I think it would have to be something a little more custodial and a little more. They do want it a touch more centralized.
Right.
It kind of goes back to why I was talking about R3 having that private and public blockchain connection, because there's various different amount of reasons why institutions have to go that route. But yeah, I don't see any reason why they'd be opposed to the lending and borrowing side of things, or especially the lending. But if we can provide like again, I just go back to the Solana ETF and staking aspect. If that appetite's already getting there, if we can like establish how can they stake their BTC, but yet like not using the Lightning Network and things like that. You know what I mean? Like,
Right.
I would say that's the next progression.
Right. So that's basically giving them the power, keeping the fees down, giving them the opportunity on that side, so they could just have a yield bearing asset on
Exactly.
on Solana. Bottom line, with the same liquidity pools and an opportunity that it was natively offered. Right.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. So it's just essentially going down the risk curve to they're going to want to gain yield. Like that's what the overall point of what I'm saying is with the Solana ETF applications and staking actually being prevalent versus all these other ETFs that have been live are all spot exposure. We're going down the risk curve and saying, okay, let's start exploring DeFi. And that's just starting with Solana, potentially
Right.
here in Q4, especially. So why not the next step? Why not BTC-Fi or DeFi on BTC? Well, however you want to describe it. But like, let's start doing something with that.
I agree. I'm thinking about this. Like, how would I, if I was to talk to somebody about getting involved with crypto or investing? I'm wondering, would I direct them into Bitcoin natively, or would I want to say, hey, just get your Bitcoin on Solana? You know what I mean? Like, obviously, I think that I'd probably go with the Solana route just because it would be. I mean, and I'm talking like a 9-to-5 guy that's working regular, doesn't have a lot of time to get into this, doesn't really want to get into that neck of the woods. Would it make more sense for them to get to the ETFs and the RWAs, or would it make more sense for them to buy Solana, swap it for Bitcoin, and find some ways to stake it or do any of those kind of things? Like, what do you think on that? Like, how would you kind of phrase that to a friend that's asking you, like, hey, I'm interested in this. I like, the sound of Bitcoin. I hear Solana all the time. I'm hearing that, stocks and stuff are getting into crypto. Like, what do I do here? How do I get involved? Where would you?
I guess it totally depends on how he wants to do it, I guess, and how much time he wants to spend.
Right.
Not that one is more time than the other, essentially, but if he's just like, hey, I just want to buy something and hold it for 10 years, I don't know. I mean, then I would still probably argue that you probably should try to gain yield on that. So obviously you should be going the Solana route and actually doing something with it. But again, it depends. If he's like, yeah, more than likely, if it's an average 9-to-5 guy, what he's really saying is, yeah, I'm, whether I'm late or not, whether he thinks he's late or not, I want to get involved here.
Yeah.
Okay. Then let's start talking about kind of like you're talking about BTC-Fi on Solana and actually, do something with the Bitcoin instead of just holding it. Because odds are he's probably not buying a ton. I don't think he's coming to me and saying, oh yeah, I want to put my $2 million here into Bitcoin instead,
Yeah, for sure. I think I would do the same thing. I think I would go the route and kind of explain to them, buy Solana. There's more upside on it, but you could stake this and, maybe by yourself, break it down. I did a video breaking what I would imagine, let's say $1,000, but I would tell somebody to start with that on your first month or something, how they could break it down. But that's kind of the same thing. I think the RWA conversation gets a little bit more exciting as it develops and we see more and more people building on that side of things, making it more simple to get on. I mean, I would think that at some point Robinhood's going to jump on board and start, bringing
I haven't
that.
looked at that. I don't know if they're, for all I know, they may even be involved. I didn't even look at them. I kind of ignore them most of the time.
Yeah, I agree. But it's definitely something that makes me think of it because like they had so much success of bringing people in. Like they brought me in just because I was in the space, seeing what was going on. And it was an app. All I had to do was click it. Like I just think that there is I don't know. I just think that they have that name, even though we know that they controlled and they did some like screwed up shit where it really crushed people. They're still here, and like
I like the premise of them. Like the
Yeah.
point is to. I think it's always important to go after the the real user base, which is what they did,
Mhm.
and actually make things easier. That's the entire point.
Yep.
It's just,
I mean, they
luckily
nailed
now
that.
Solana's coming around. Various different companies in Solana and dApps and things like that are actually coming around to that, like Jupiter and people like that. So, but otherwise, yeah, I have no problem with them in that fact, because what I agree with what they're attempting to do.
Yeah, I mean, it was the easiest way for me. I think other people see the same thing. I think that Solana's evolving from a meme coin playground to the backbone of the internet capital markets. I think RWAs and BTC are two sides of the same coin, and together they're going to be a huge player in this game. I think that a lot of people that start to pay attention to how they can get in, it's not trying to knock it out of the park on your first swing. Just start getting on base, and these plays, these opportunities, what we're talking about, these are things that are still in development. They're still early. I mean, I've been here for 5 years now, and I still think I'm kind of early to the game when it comes to the bigger scale of things. Sure, maybe not the entry for certain assets or whatever you want to call it, but there's opportunity that you're still early to. There's things that are coming out now, like us talking more and more about Zeus Network providing rails to bring your Bitcoin and bring it onto Solana. I think that that's huge. Seeing other people that are trying to build on top of ZBTC with meme coins and backing different assets on that's exciting. We've seen that kind of that attempt natively, where I think that was more of a little bit of a fumble because it just doesn't really work, or there wasn't the amount of interest they expected. But the prices ran up tremendously, and that was the thing that, well, when it works really good. You know what I mean? So that was something that shows you, hey, there's still a community on that end. I'm curious to see if they start to see the same things that we're trying to explain to the maxi Bitcoin holder. It's like you're kind of stuck with very little opportunity, and it's becoming more and more prevalent. You need efficient transactions, speed, costs. You need the yield. Otherwise, sure, over time it will go up, but like there's compounding interest that you can start to develop with these things. And I mean, it's I don't know, it's it just seems like a simple thing to me now, but I'm curious to continue talking to more people IRL and ask them, what do you know, and continue these conversations. And I think that us having just this Discord back and forth talking about how this is the new wave of internet capital markets, where RWAs really are like, they're going to be huge. I mean, that chart really is staggering, seeing that 650 some % jump in 30 days. Like, it's like they turned a switch on and people are like, all right, we're in, like, let's do this. And that's crazy.
And it's because, while some RWA might not be the most interesting, commodities, treasury, real estate's kind of interesting on there, I think. I'll be interested to see how that goes. But yeah, some of it might not be the most interesting topic, but same token, the point is to, if we're heading down the factor of knowing that we're just taking the first steps and knowing that our old traditional finance system is outdated, we're going to start connecting TradFi and DeFi, and we're going to be tokenizing. Essentially, that's the point of RWAs. We're tokenizing assets, all potential assets that we can. So, I mean, that's pretty much, I would say that's pretty much signaling the future at this point. I think it's fairly known that the old monetary system and old finance system is, a dinosaur. And so that's why we're heading this route.
100%, man. I think it's great points, great topics. I'm excited to listen back to this and take some of these clips and put them together. But you want to switch gears up, take a look at some of these charts. We're talking about all of the, this money. Want to see how it's moving?
Yep.
Let's do that.
There we go. All right, so
hold on, let's switch that. There we go. Why don't we go to this over here, because we'll be able to see the screen a little bit bigger.
There we go.
Oh.
There, that helps a little bit. This is the daily on Bitcoin for anybody still watching here. Obviously, last time we talked about this here. As always, market structure first. So for those that, well, I'm not going to dive into it forever, but for those that don't know what I meant by that is market structure is essentially like, okay, what is it? 80% of the time you're in balance, and the other 20 you're out of balance, meaning you're actually rising up or going way down, out of range, essentially. So like what I was saying before was that you need a tap of the previous structure at least, whether it accepts into this structure, and by structure I mean this range. Okay, these are all structures.
Right.
Okay. This is what I mean by market structure. So basic market structure tells you that previous resistance you need to then turn into support. Okay. So your first step here, and I'm not saying this is how it's going to go, but your first step would be seeing acceptance here in this range, which is where we're at now. This is where I said it was going to go. I think I said
110.
Somewhere between 112 and 108 is what I said. I believe.
Yeah.
So you start to see it here. Now, I believe you should, in theory, and there's some other different things I would factor into this, but you should be bidding here. And now you probably get a slow, maybe slow. I guess it doesn't necessarily have to be slow, but probably get some reprieve, even if this isn't long term. You probably will want to come back up to here. There's an FVG up here. I would like a little bit of a bounce here short term back into the
about like 112 or so.
Probably a little above that, probably in the 113, 114 range.
Okay.
Because I think you'd have had good bidding here at this market structure, right around.
Yeah, I see the same thing. I see it.
Yeah,
because you got two
108.
peaks. You have a inverted head and shoulder, or you have a head and shoulder pattern right there, right before that breakdown.
Okay.
You see that?
I don't really pay attention to those, to be honest with you.
Well, the reason I say that is because it's right where you're talking about this coming back up to, and it shows like a nice channel right there at that top of like 114.6. There's 2 points where if you put a line straight to that peak, and then previously where you had a W, it cuts right through there. So that's the only reason I'm saying that. And if you use those points, you got your head and shoulder, you have the nice complete breakdown, retest that support from the previous range back in July through whatever that was right here, May through the July. It was kind of ranging in there, and that's where we just bounced on to your point where we should probably move back up in that direction. I mean,
this is just short term. I think the move.
Yeah.
I still personally think that's where I was going with this. Now you start moving into higher time frames. Weekly, I would really, if I was short-term bullish, I would really not want to see this FBG get closed, which it's teetering on that right now. So we've got the rest of the week to not close below here.
Yeah.
Because then I'm not sure I like that. I mean, it doesn't change it market structure wise. I just don't really like closing that FBG. But anyway, long story short is we're fine here, but we do want to hold this area. If we accept too much into here, then you can just, I mean, you're going to at least start ranging in that range again. One would assume if you're staying in there too long, and then I could take it a step further. And I don't mean to make it sound like I'm bearish, because I'm not.
Goddamn bears.
On the monthly, like 1, 2, 3, 4 monthly candles before sort of a swing failure pattern, it appears, because we've only got a few days left of the month. Odds are pretty good. I mean, I doubt it just goes back to, well, on my chart, a white candle, but I doubt it just goes back to white or green, whatever you want to call it.
Mm-hmm.
I just don't think that's going to happen. So like monthly wise, this gets a little interesting, where I think the point I'm going with it is between getting on the really high time frames. I just wonder if we chop some. I feel like we need that. And then I feel like we could use some chop, and then maybe somewhere here before we really run up again, one flush towards something like 100K. And again, I'm not trying to get bearish on everybody and tell everybody to sell. I'm just saying.
You're about to get fudded by the whole chat, dude.
Yeah, it's going up, but you have to realize you have to have cooling points. So like
I'm
we
about to
just
start
went
throwing
up,
tomatoes up at the chat
What?
right now. Come on.
What's
No,
that?
I'm just kidding. I said they're gonna start throwing tomatoes at us. Come on.
Yeah.
No. I agree with you. I'm seeing the same thing. I'm on the closer time frame, but what you're saying makes sense. Just because if we don't bounce above and reclaim that basically above 112, it's just lower. It's a downtrend from the 124.
Yep.
Like everything is showing that you're coming down from there, like on the shorter term, very short term. But
Well, and even
but my point is with that is I think we would.
I actually think we bounce a little, but even
No, what I'm
so-
saying is I think that if we can hold that right there, that's the more the bullish we continue this trend on the short term.
Yeah.
But if we break through that, I think what you're saying, the chopping effect or what
Yes.
that I think that's exactly where we're at. Like I'm just looking at this.
I think we you already know my thought on that. I've said that I think we need some chop.
Mhm.
If we were to go up from here, and especially I'm gonna switch over to Heath. Especially here. If we're going straight up from here, we're gonna be done sooner than you guys want. Just saying that for everybody out there. Like, I mean, this is a lot of up. It's pretty much been up since July, or actually April, I guess, on BTC. But pretty much been up since May. My bad. Well, there was some chopping there. Either way, it's been up
April.
a lot. Yeah.
I got April of this year. We've been straight up.
And that is shocking to me considering the time frame. So
The
anyway,
one thing-
long story short is I realized that not everybody's alt bags have been, super great that entire time. Let's see.
Yeah.
It's been up but choppy. It's still up. But anyway, long story short is while everybody just wants up only, I'm telling you right now, if we were to take off right now, we would probably be done in October. I mean, at best. Like, I don't think it would last a long time because this is so much.
You don't want to see my chart because that's really what we have. I have like set up here. I just want to pull this up real quick. I'm not going to spend too much time. I like your chart better, but this is just funny how I drew this out. Let me pull this up and then we'll switch gears real quick.
You can get rid of my chart if you want.
So, I mean, unless you're done going over it, we don't.
Yeah,
have to.
I don't. There ain't really anything left for me to go over there.
So, just off of bare, like really rudimentary things here, we had our reversal here back in April, May, whatever, and we've been kind of just running up here. This little sideways action here, kind of replicated right here again. But the problem with this one is we broke down below these points, and we retested these highs, and these points of support and resistance. If we don't maintain this and reverse and continue this trend, I think we're coming down, like you said, about 100K in these areas. Like this is the strongest.
Somewhere there'd be a flush in there. It's pretty much just chop, but yes, you could easily get the flush to 100K.
Yeah. I think that it could get down there. But looking even further out of this, what you were talking about as far as, if we were to go up here by October, the BTC top, that would align straight with this. Like just jokingly, I drew this. I was like, yeah, we could just keep running straight up and not stop. But like, there's a problem with that because you come up here, like this bubble pops, if it does that.
The interesting part would be like,
and then you have the chop
right
over here.
Then it depends on what BTC dominance is doing. Are we in a full? Because we've actually been. That's where I was thinking of when I said.
Well, I gave you a 40K window, so I don't know how that. I don't know where that goes there.
But this is what I was thinking of when I said July. It was BTC dominance has been down the entire time, thanks to ETH's rise, and then in turn Solana and various different.
So if that does flip, then you could see that. Yeah, I see what you're saying. Okay, that's a good point.
But again, it's still already been BTC dominance been going down since July. So like, I mean, it's either going to keep going down from here, and we're already in alt season. And gonna take it a step further, which I just think means we're done even sooner, or we can get some chop. And I think chop's best for everyone here.
Well, I gave myself two scenarios whenever I last was covering this, probably around this time last week. But from this point right here, I guess that's wherever this was, this chart. where I was kind of just, I guess this is back on the 22nd, last Friday. I figured the same thing. We come down, retest these areas right here, chop a little bit. This takes us all the way through middle of September before we start making some progressions. That would lead towards October, towards decision making for ETFs. That's kind of where I was looking at this, and I know that this is Bitcoin, but that's just where my head's thinking this might go. The other one was we bounce right back up here, form a nice little W pattern. You have a double bottom, whatever the case is, and you start running straight up to wherever we decide to go. My first goal is about 130 to 140K for Bitcoin. And past that, that's going to depend on like your points of, dominance, where things are at in the market, where this whole entire push goes. There could be that crazy euphoric thing that comes into effect, and everybody's like, damn it, I missed it at 100K. I'm not missing it at 200K. You know what I mean? That's a realistic thing. That also means that everybody else underneath is going to be like, time to take profit. And that's where you have that pop. That's where you could see that flush through. But unless there's some crazy catastrophic event that happens financially, I wouldn't even say like on war levels at this point, like that doesn't seem to matter. There has to be some crazy catastrophic thing for this to break down all the way. I just think there's so much support. The administration, the things that are leaning in this direction, RWAs are a huge part of this. The institutional investors that are looking to, place it and park their money in these different opportunities, like it's building a very bullish case of why this is the future of finance, and why these bridges of TradFi to DeFi are actually valid and playing out to kind of like what we were expecting. I don't know. You want to you have your chart back up there, by the way. I just closed mine.
I just thought I just remembered to also point out the M2 global liquidity, which is the blue line here. So
that's kind of dictating what we're talking about.
The rise. That's 12-week lead. Still on the rise, but maybe we do have this chop coming.
Interesting.
Is what I would prefer.
Can you explain that a little bit more? Because I don't think I've looked. I mean, I know what that is, but I've never watched it.
It's basically an index of all funds. Like, essentially, from my understanding, it's like taking the dollar, the euro, the this and this and this and this, like the liquidity of all global money, and obviously that's just on the rise. So, that's essentially my understanding of it, anyway. And then what we do is here we take, at least for now, because this is how we do things, we say, oh, okay, this has followed it. So all you had to do is give it about a 12-week lead, and then it actually lines up nice. So I don't know.
Interesting.
I'm not the one that figured this out. Somebody smarter than me did.
That's usually how we do things here. We just break down the smart people stuff and keep it simple so you guys can understand it. I mean, it's the easiest way to do it. It makes me feel like this sometimes. Hold on real quick.
Noah! Larry, what the hell are you doing?
Larry!
Larry, you can't just... Oh,
Larry! Oh, are you all right? How did...
Larry!
I'm sorry. I just saw it. I had to click the button.
I like it.
That's my favorite meme coin. If you guys don't know, it's a fun one. It's a super recognizable one. I don't advise you guys buying it. I advise you doing your own research and going down that route. But that's all I got for today. I don't know if we can beat a dead horse anymore. It's kind of rude at this point. But anything you want to add, anything you want to close out with? We got another clip from Marinade Finance we're going to play as we exit. And I want to give them a shout out as well. They're doing amazing things over there. And I'm very proud to be part of the team. But anything you want to add, feel free to take the mic away. It's all yours, Jules.
I am all good. Let's go with Marinade.
All right. Gravy, cue that one up. And thank you guys for tuning in. We'll see you on the next one next Tuesday, 8 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. And take care.
I was glued to the charts. Every dip felt like the bottom. Every pump, just the beginning. But it never was. I lost sleep. I lost some soul. Then, I lost myself. Until I didn't. There was another way. I didn't have to chase green candles. I could make my soul work for me. Marinade staking. Instead of betting on meme coins, validators were competing for my stake. Hundreds of them, competing for the highest rewards. But not everyone gets my stake. only the best earn it. No downtime, no shortcuts. Sam automatically delegates my stake to the top validators. Miss the APY threshold? No stake. Underperform? Bonds protect my rewards. And the best part? It works for both liquid and native staking. It's time to stop playing the game and start stacking wins. Minimize risk, maximize rewards. Marinade staking.